Hey everyone, Reviewinstein here. In this video, I'll be giving you my full review of the AV-8A, a Tier 6 premium VTOL strike aircraft in the American Air Tech Tree. It is currently purchasable in a pack that costs $60 when not on sale. It includes the AV-8A, 2,000 Golden Eagles, and 15 days of premium time. I'll go over everything about this plane, including its stats, how it plays, its strengths and weaknesses, and then give a final recommendation on if I think that it's worth purchasing or not. As always, please hit that subscribe button for more reviews, guides, and giveaways. But without further ado, let's get into it. Its stat card is actually fairly misleading, as I'll go over throughout the video, because it outperforms it by quite a bit. It is important to note that the AV-8A has a better engine than the Harrier GR1 at 6,220 kilograms of force compared to 9,240 kilograms of force on the GR1, leading to better flight performance despite being a lower BR, at 9.7 BR in RB compared to 10.0 for the GR1. The AV-8A also sits at 9.3 BR in both AB and Sim. So for its roles, it basically does two things: dogfights and plays close air support, and it does both equally well. It can also strike bases very well in air RB. For dogfighting, it is incredibly maneuverable and has a prodigious rate of climb, surpassing some supersonic planes. It will easily get up to 6,000 or 7,000 meters before the start of fighting in a match, oftentimes reaching much higher if you actually push for it. This gives you a tremendous advantage, oftentimes being so high up that many enemies will not see you, which will lead to you being able to boom and zoom. At this point, the AV-8A is an excellent diving plane, but unlike some other planes that have insane acceleration, the AV-8A is still subsonic and as such will rarely be able to catch up to enemies that it's diving after, at least if they're aware of your presence. In the fair likelihood that they aren't, however, you will have the option of firing either an excellent AIM-9G to shoot them down, or if you prefer, use your 30mm cannons. Be aware though that the AV-8A now has fewer cannon shells than it had previously, going from 400 to 260 shells total between all cannons, meaning that you may want to reconsider using your cannons unless you have a definite hit. Typically, with smart usage of your AIM-9Gs, for which you will only have 2, you should be able to get at least 1 kill per match, with a great chance of getting 2 before you have to go back to base. Following a successful reload, another kill or 2 is not out of the question, as they are excellent missiles at 9.7 BR. Further, as mentioned before, the AV-8A can strike very well in air RB, meaning that you can easily equip 2 1,000-pound bombs, a single 500-pound bomb, and your 2 AIM-9Gs, and strike a base extremely quickly, switching to dogfighting mode immediately once you're done. This is a great way to get extra points, as the extra weight and drag caused by the bombs will barely slow you down, making it so that you are extremely unlikely to be intercepted before you drop your payload. It's basically free points. An important thing to note with the AV-8A is that the countermeasures take up an ordnance spot underneath the fuselage where a bomb could otherwise go, so you do have to choose between your 240 countermeasures or your ordnance pod. Thankfully, the ordnance pod takes up a very small amount of weight and hardly increases drag, but of course it does still force you to choose between ordnance and countermeasures, so basically offense versus defense. For its second main role, you have close air support. It performs this very well and has a very powerful assortment of weaponry to choose from, with numerous types of bombs and rockets at your feet. Though these are not insanely powerful, having 2 1,000-pound bombs and 3 500-pound bombs at most, you can still be potent, as the AV-8A is small and maneuverable, allowing you to strike with deadly precision, especially being that it has a ballistics computer. You can also switch to either Zuni or Mighty Mouse rockets, but unfortunately you cannot mix rocket types or have bombs and rockets simultaneously, which can rain on your parade. Also, as mentioned before, if you want countermeasures, you'll have to sacrifice a spot otherwise reserved for ordnance in order to accommodate the countermeasure pod. Either way, what you lack in payload you will make up for in precision, which in my experience works in the AV-8A's favor. And now for its strengths and weaknesses, and to start with its strengths, it has incredible acceleration despite being subsonic. Even at 2/3 throttle, you will easily and quickly reach 1,100 kilometers per hour. It can outclimb and out-accelerate most planes at any BR, especially considering premium planes. Even with ground and ordnance, the AV-8A still gains speed faster than most similar BR planes that don't even have ordnance. Secondly, while VTOL does not have a ton of use right now outside of manual thrust vectoring to improve agility, if and when a mechanic for bombed out runways enters War Thunder, the AV-8A and other VTOL planes will be the planes that everyone wants. Third, ballistics computer for both bombs and rockets. This makes your somewhat limited supply of ordnance far more efficient and deadly. Fourth, it has excellent versatility, as you can carry 2 1,000-pound bombs, countermeasures, and the AIM-9G missiles at the same time, all while suffering very little in terms of acceleration due to the amazing engine on this plane. This is probably the easiest way to grind with the AV-8A, as you are extremely unlikely to be intercepted before hitting the enemy base, all while you can dogfight with ease after you drop your ordnance. Following that, again, it has the AIM-9G missiles, which While they're not as good as the SRAMs on its sister plane, the Harrier GR1, are still excellent and will be able to successfully track most enemies with ease and get a kill or a hit if you're around 2 or 2.5 kilometers away from your target. For the 6th strength, we have nearly indestructible flaps. They are incredibly powerful at any speed. Following this, we have an air spawn in air RB. Of course, this is very important and really helps for dropping ordnance quickly in air RB. For its 8th strength, we have 30mm aided cannons, which are extremely potent versus ground, as they are 30mm and have a nice 47mm of armor pen, making them potent versus light tanks, SPAA, and unarmored vehicles, as well as soft ground targets in RB and AV matches, all the way up to light pillboxes, depending on your ammo choice. For the 9th strength, we have an incredible roll rate. It's so good that you'll think that you're playing AB when you're actually playing RB. And finally, for its 10th strength, it has premium RP and silver line modifiers, meaning that along with the aforementioned strength, this is one of the best American air grinders in game, possibly second to only the F5C, although arguably close to as good, if not just as good. And now for its weaknesses. It only has 2 missiles, which can limit your air-to-air effectiveness. Secondly, despite its amazing performance in both rate of climb and acceleration, it is still subsonic, which will ultimately limit you. Third, it has no radar. Fourth, countermeasures are optional and take up a spot underneath the fuselage, which again could be used from ground ordnance. Following this, while it is extremely potent against ground targets due to its ballistics computer, the AV-8A does not have the ability to carry rockets and bombs at the same time, nor can it carry anywhere near the amount of ordnance of lower BR vehicles like the A4E or similar BR planes like the F3H fighter. It even has an arguably lesser ground ordnance loadout than the comparable Harrier GR1. And finally, its engines overheat extremely quickly, so you really need to watch out for that. And now for my final recommendation and ratings. The case for the AV-8A was much stronger when it first came out in November of 2020 than it is now. With options like the F5C, A5C, or even the SU-7BMK and the A4E late, the AV-8A is much less of a standout, and even in its own tech tree has been overshadowed by the aforementioned F5C. For perspective, the AV-8A currently costs the same as an almost inarguably better F5C, unfortunately making this a lesser deal. Although if it were to cost $50, Gaijin would make this a much more compelling purchase. The F5C does not, however, have a ballistics computer or VTOL capability. It also has lesser missiles compared to the Harrier, and it is slower to accelerate. On a side note, an important thing to note is that the similar BR Harrier GR1 costs 9,090 GE, and it does not include the pack bonuses that the AV-8A enjoys, meaning that the Harrier GR1 does not include 15 days of premium time, nor does it include 2,000 GE. Either way, in comparisons aside, by itself, the AV-8A is an excellent plane, and solely for its BR, I can find it to be much easier to grind with almost any planes, including the previously mentioned F5C, as the F5C will almost always be killed before being able to strike a base in air RB, whereas the AV-8A will not only do that, but it will nearly always get a kill right after you drop your bombs. But that said, let's do some quick ratings, and then I'll be able to tell you if this plane is worth purchasing or not, at least in my opinion. So for close air support and strike capabilities, I'll give this a 7.5 out of 10, because while accurate, it will never be able to do as much as someone who is accurate with, for example, an A4E Skyhawk. It will also never be able to destroy base on its own. The AV-8A is almost always good for extra points in air RB for hitting bases, but it will never get as many as, for example, the Vautour, F5C, or A5C. This is much the same for close air support. Assisted accuracy can only go so far. Eventually, you need extra payload, which it does not have in spades. Secondly, for dogfighting, I give the AV-8A a 7.5 out of 10. It used to be an 8.5 out of 10, but the ammunition was lowered by 140 shells, severely limiting its usability over long duration fights. Overall though, the AV-8A is an incredible performer, and minus the SRAMs on the GR1, it totally outperforms the GR1 in every way, despite being a lower BR. The AV-8A has fantastic maneuverability, acceleration, rate of climb, and so forth, so you can defend yourself in dogfights far better than nearly all other planes in game, especially relative to BR. It is absolutely remarkable. For grinding, I'll have to give this another 7.5 out of 10, largely due to its limited payload and ammunition, keeping it from getting base kills, tons of ground kills, and air-to-air kills. The AV-8A, more than most planes, has a cap on how many kills it can get before being forced to go back to base. Overall, I'd rate this plane, as you may have guessed, a 7.5 overall, but the pack itself a 6.5 out of 10 for value, largely due to the fact that the F5C, along with other superior planes, are priced the same as the AV-8A. While it is incredibly capable at 9.7 BR, the AV-8A is limited by how much it can carry. If it could bring more missiles or bombs to the fight, it would be a much more attractive option, in much the same way that it would make far more sense at $55 or, better yet, $50 USD. For each $5 increment that it drops down to $50, I'd give the pack another overall 0.5 higher rating, at least in terms of value. While it is certainly a good pack and not one that you'd regret purchasing, there's a good chance that you'll wonder why you picked the AV-8A before you purchased the F5C. My final final recommendation and advice is to buy the F5C first, and if for whatever reason you still want or need a high BR American plane, such as to fill out a lower BR's close air support, then the AV-8A is a great purchase. If you're looking for pretty much anything else, just get the F5C, A5C, or other high-tier premium planes. The AV-8A is largely obsolete at its current price and no longer fills the role that it once did. Buying the AV-8A at $60 is like buying a 2019 Honda Civic Sport, where there is literally a 2021 Civic Type R for the same price down the road. The Civic Sport is still a great car, but why wouldn't you get the Type R? That's the AV-8A versus the F5C, at least right now and again in my opinion. Either way, thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you like more content. With that being said though, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care everyone.